Desire is not what most people believe. It isn't romance, it isn't love, and it isn't even attraction in the shallow way magazines or movies sell it. Desire is a shadow, a silent force that hides beneath words, beneath reason, beneath everything we pretend to understand. It lives in the invisible threads that pull the human mind toward mystery, toward power, toward something it cannot fully explain. And here is the tragedy. Most men will never touch this truth. They spend their lives running in circles, buying gifts, sending endless texts, lowering themselves for crumbs of attention, thinking effort equals desire. But effort does not create attraction. In fact, it often kills it. Because the woman they are chasing is not moved by the desperation of effort. She is moved by something deeper, something older than history itself: power. Centuries ago, Machiavelli exposed this hidden law. He wrote not about love, but about the forces beneath love, the currents that steer human nature: fear, hope, uncertainty, and above all, desire. He understood something that most men today still refuse to see. People are not guided by logic. They are moved by forces that live in the shadows of their mind. The question is simple but terrifying. Do you control that shadow, or do you become its prisoner? When most men hear the word power, they imagine aggression, loudness, domination. But true power is not noise. It's not cruelty. It's not a raised voice or a clenched fist. True power is silent. It's the calm center of a storm. It's the presence of a man who does not need to prove himself because his very existence proves enough. Think about it. The man who chases approval is restless. He explains too much. He talks too much. He bends too much. And every word he spills, every action he takes, leaks the same truth. He is afraid. Afraid of losing what he wants. Afraid of not being enough. And fear, once seen, kills attraction. But then there is another kind of man. The man who needs nothing, who moves slowly, calmly, who does not beg for space, for attention, for recognition. His silence speaks louder than other men's shouting. His stillness draws more eyes than another man's performance. He does not pull at the world. The world bends toward him. Why does this happen? Because the human mind, especially the female mind, is drawn to presence. Not the strength of muscle, but the strength of gravity. The kind of presence that makes you feel safe, yet sparks curiosity at the same time. A presence that whispers, "This man cannot be shaken." That is where desire is born. Not in desperate words, not in shallow attraction, but in the aura of a man who is unshakable. Women feel this. They may not speak of it. They may not even understand it, but they feel it. The gravity of a man who carries his world inside him. And once they feel it, something awakens in them they cannot control. This is why most men fail. They confuse desire with effort. They think showing how badly they want her will move her. But desire does not grow from a man who wants. It grows from a man who has. A man who has control over himself. A man who has standards. A man who has no fear of walking away. That is the hidden law of power. When you need nothing, everything begins to move toward you. And when you carry that energy, women don't choose you for your words or your gifts. They choose you because of what they feel when they stand in your presence. Because here is the deepest truth. Desire is not in the eyes, not in the smile, not even in the body. Desire begins in the shadow of power, and the man who learns to walk in that shadow never chases again. Nothing destroys desire faster than predictability. A man who explains himself too much, who reveals every thought in his mind, who rushes to prove his value, becomes clear. And what is clear is boring. The human mind does not hunger for what it fully understands. It hungers for the unknown, for the hidden, for the story that is never fully told. Because the unknown leaves room for imagination, and imagination is the birthplace of desire. This is the fatal mistake so many men make. They overshare. They pour out their feelings too soon, confess their past too quickly, expose every plan and every weakness, thinking honesty will build connection. But honesty without restraint is not connection. It is a map that shows everything. And once a woman holds that map, once she knows every path, every hill, every corner of your soul, there is nothing left to explore. And exploration is where desire lives. Mystery is not silence for silence's sake. It is not coldness. It is not being distant just to play a game. Mystery is space. Mystery is the pause between words. Mystery is the unspoken question that lingers in her mind long after you've left. Imagine this. Two men speak to a woman. The first pours himself out. His history, his dreams, his desires, his fears. She knows exactly who he is. She has no questions left. The second man speaks less. He listens more. He chooses his words carefully. He shares fragments, but never the whole picture. His eyes suggest something deeper. His pauses invite her imagination. Which man will she think about when she goes home? Not the one who explained himself completely, but the one who left her wondering. Mystery is not emptiness. Mystery is presence wrapped in shadow. It is the story half told, the silence that sparks curiosity, the suggestion that there is more beneath the surface. And here lies the secret. When a woman wonders, she invests. She fills in the blanks herself. She creates a story about you in her own mind, and the story she writes will always be more powerful than the one you could have spoken. Curiosity feeds attention. And attention, when stretched long enough, transforms into desire. That is why the man who reveals too much too soon kills desire before it is born. He ends the story before it begins. But the man who masters silence, who leaves just enough unsaid, who lets her imagination work against her, he becomes unforgettable. Because long after he leaves, he remains in her thoughts, not as a memory, but as a question. And questions do not fade. They echo, they replay, they haunt. Understand this law. What is abundant loses value. What is rare becomes priceless. This is true of gold, of art, of beauty, and it is true of you. A man who gives everything at once is everywhere, like water in the sea, infinite, endless, forgettable. But a man who holds himself back, who gives his time, his attention, his energy in measured amounts, his presence becomes sacred. Scarcity is not absence. Scarcity is power. It is the ability to choose when and how much of yourself you reveal. It makes every glance, every word, every moment with you echo louder, because it is not endless. It is precious. And here lies the paradox. The less you give, the more she wants. The quieter you are, the louder your presence feels. The rarer your attention, the more it burns in her memory. That is the art of mystery. It is not a trick. It is not manipulation. It is the natural law of desire. And the man who learns to wield it will never again wonder why he is forgotten, because he will live in her mind as the story she can never finish. There is a law older than kings, older than civilizations, older than history itself. Whatever is common loses its value. Whatever is rare becomes priceless. Gold is valuable not because it shines, but because it is scarce. A diamond is precious not because it sparkles, but because not everyone can hold one. And the same truth governs desire. Most men destroy their own value because they give too much. Too much time, too much attention, too much availability. They flood the world with themselves, believing it will make them loved. But what happens when something is everywhere? It becomes ordinary. It becomes invisible. It loses its weight. A man who is always present, always texting, always calling, always available is like water in the ocean. Infinite, endless, forgettable. She drinks when she wants, but she never treasures it because it costs her nothing. But when your presence is R-A-R-E, everything changes. When your time must be earned, it becomes sacred. When your attention is not automatic, it becomes valuable. When your presence cannot be taken for granted, it becomes unforgettable. This is not absence. Absence is weakness disguised as distance. Absence is running away. Scarcity is different. Scarcity is strength. Scarcity is control. Scarcity is the decision to hold yourself back, to measure what you give, to make every word, every look, every moment with you echo louder because it is not endless. Think of a diamond again. What makes it priceless is not only its shine, but its rarity. Because not everyone can have it, the world bends to possess it. Your presence must become the same, not abundant, not free for all, not overflowing, but measured, deliberate, rare. And here lies the paradox. The less you give, the more she craves. The fewer your words, the louder they echo in her memory. The less available you are, the more her mind chases you in your absence. This is the scarcity of presence, a law that never fails, a weapon sharper than any argument, stronger than any performance. The weak man floods the market with himself until he is worth nothing. The strong man limits the supply until he becomes priceless. Scarcity is not about ignoring her. It is not about playing games. It is about teaching her, wordlessly, that your time, your energy, your attention are treasures. And treasures are never handed out freely. They must be earned. Now, understand this. She will test you, always. Do not doubt this. She will test you in words, in moods, in storms that come without warning. One day she questions your choices. Another day she withdraws just to see if you chase. Another time she provokes you with small defiance just to study your reaction. These are not accidents. These are not random. These are silent questions. Can you be shaken? Can you be broken? Is your strength real, or is it only a mask? Most men fail. They defend themselves. They explain too much. They argue. They beg. They show fear. And in that moment, they prove they are powerless. For the man who justifies himself has already admitted doubt. But the strong man is different. He does not rush. He does not defend. He does not beg. He lets silence answer for him. Silence is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is control. Silence is a mirror. When you refuse to react, when you let her words hang in the air unanswered, the test turns back on her. She begins to feel the weight of her own storm. She begins to hear the hollowness of her own defiance. And in that quiet, she sees you as unshakable, a man who cannot be bent, a man who does not collapse, a man who does not crumble at her storms. That kind of man is respected. That kind of man is desired. Because storms pass, emotions fade, but the memory of a man who cannot be broken remains. When you pass the test of silence, something powerful awakens. Desire. Because desire is not born from comfort. It is born from tension, from contrast, from the realization that you are not like other men, predictable, reactive, fragile. Silence is dominance without force. It is strength without words. It is power revealed not in what you say, but in what you refuse to say. The weak man argues, the ordinary man explains, but the strong man remains silent, and in that silence he becomes unforgettable. Life itself is built on opposites, day and night, light and shadow, calm and storm. The mind is drawn to contrast because contrast creates movement, and movement creates life. Without contrast, there is no tension. Without tension, there is no desire. This same law rules attraction. Machiavelli understood it long before modern psychology ever gave it words. He knew that a ruler who is only loved becomes ignored. A ruler who is only feared becomes hated. But the one who carries both, fear and love together, becomes unforgettable. And so it is with a man in the eyes of a woman. Gentleness without strength is weakness. It may feel safe, but it becomes ordinary. Strength without gentleness is tyranny. It may feel powerful, but it becomes cold and unapproachable. But when a man carries both, when he can be kind without being soft and strong without being cruel, he creates something rare. And what is rare always awakens desire. A woman must feel your warmth. She must feel your ability to listen, to understand, to hold space for her emotions when they overflow. But she must also feel your edge, the truth that you cannot be controlled, that you can walk away at any moment, that your standards are sharp and unbending. This duality creates obsession because it makes you unpredictable. She never fully knows which version of you she will meet. Will she find the man who comforts her when she is broken, or the man who calmly withdraws when she crosses the line? That uncertainty is not weakness. It is power. It is the oxygen of desire. Remember this. People remember the sharpest contrasts. Sweetness feels sweeter after bitterness. Light feels brighter after darkness. Safety feels deeper when danger stands close by. In the same way, your warmth will feel stronger when she knows your edge exists. The weak man fears showing both sides. He hides behind one mask, always soft, always kind, always open, or always hard, always cold, always closed. But both extremes destroy desire. The man who shows only kindness becomes forgettable. The man who shows only strength becomes feared, but never truly loved. Neither is irresistible, but the man who holds both with control becomes unforgettable. He is not random. He is not unstable. He is deliberate. And that deliberation makes every moment with him a question. Questions breed curiosity. Curiosity fuels attention. And attention, stretched over time, becomes desire. Think of fire. Too much heat burns out of control. Too much cold kills the flame. But a balance, warmth with danger, gentleness with fire, keeps people drawn to it, unable to turn away. That is the contrast principle. to carry both the open hand and the closed fist, to give comfort, but never surrender your edge. Now understand the deeper law hidden in Machiavelli's words. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Most men misunderstand this. They think fear means cruelty, domination, or harm. But in relationships, real fear is quieter. It is not fear of what you will do. It is fear of what you will not do. It is the fear of losing a man too rare to replace. Women do not fear men who beg. They do not fear men who bend their standards. They do not fear men who cannot walk away. These men may be tolerated. They may even be liked, but they are never respected. And without respect, desire withers. The rare man is different. He carries unshakable standards. He will not accept disrespect. He will not crawl back when ignored. He will not lower his worth for approval. And this firmness plants a quiet fear in her mind. Not fear of his anger, fear of his absence. Fear of the fact that if she crosses certain lines, he will not be there tomorrow. This fear sharpens every moment. It keeps her awake. It keeps her attentive. It keeps her desire alive. Because the greatest danger to desire is not conflict. It is comfort. The comfort of believing a man will stay no matter what she does. When a woman feels this quiet fear, she cannot treat you as ordinary. Ordinary men are disposable. Ordinary men are forgotten. But the man who can walk away without hesitation, without weakness, he is extraordinary. And extraordinary men are unforgettable. If she knows you will never leave, she can test you endlessly. She can disrespect, ignore, or take without giving. Because there is no cost, no risk. And what comes without risk is never valued. But when she knows your presence can vanish if disrespected, she treasures it. She respects it. She desires it. This is the true meaning of Machiavelli's warning. Fear is not cruelty. Fear is scarcity. Fear is the realization that your value is too high to be taken lightly. The weak man fears losing her. The strong man makes her fear losing him. And that shift changes everything. Human beings are drawn to their own reflection. Not just in mirrors of glass, but in the mirror of the soul. We are pulled toward people who reflect our emotions, our energy, and our hidden selves back to us. When a woman feels that you understand her without her needing to explain, when she senses that you can read her mood without words, something powerful begins to happen. Her walls weaken, her defenses lower. She begins to feel safe, and in that safety, desire begins to grow. This is the secret of mirroring. It is not copying. It is not pretending. It is not repeating her words like a trick. It is reflecting small pieces of her emotional rhythm back to her in a way that feels natural. If she speaks softly, you lower your tone. If she becomes excited, you let your energy rise just enough to meet her. If she shares something personal, your silence, your eyes, your stillness, let her know you felt the weight of it. These small reflections create a powerful illusion. The feeling that you are aligned with her, that you see her in a way no one else does. She begins to think, this man understands me. He sees me. He feels me. And when a woman feels truly seen, something rare awakens inside her. But there is danger here. Too much reflection, and you lose yourself. You become a shadow, a copy, a mirror with no depth, and she will sense it. Because true power does not come from imitation. It comes from controlled reflection, enough to make her feel understood, but not so much that you dissolve into her. The balance is what matters. Mirror her just enough to spark connection, but they always hold back enough to keep her guessing. Because when she cannot fully explain why she feels aligned with you, her mind does something remarkable. It writes a story. She begins to believe that this alignment is not chance but destiny, that something larger than choice is pulling her toward you. And once her mind believes it is destiny, it no longer feels like attraction. It feels like fate. And fate is irresistible. Understand this clearly. People chase what they believe is rare, but they surrender to what they believe is destiny. Mirroring done with precision convinces her that your presence in her life is not an accident. It is inevitable. And when she believes it is inevitable, she clings, she obsesses, she replays your words, she searches for meaning in your silences. She interprets your smallest gestures as signs of something greater. This is the mirror of desire. It is not manipulation. It is not trickery. It is alignment used with restraint, a reflection that whispers, we are connected. We are aligned. We are meant. And here is the truth that ties all of this together. Desire cannot be begged for. It cannot be bought. It cannot be forced. But it can be awakened through power, through mystery, through scarcity, through silence, through contrast, through the fear of loss, through the reflection of desire itself. These are not games. These are laws, ancient laws of human nature that Machiavelli understood and that most men will never see. They live in the shadows, waiting for the man brave enough to embrace them. So, the question stands before you. Are you willing to step into this power, or will you remain among the many who chase, beg, and are forgotten? Because in the end, it is not about her. It is not about winning her attention or her affection. It is about who you choose to become, the man who floods the world with himself until he is worth nothing, or the man who stands rare, mysterious, untouchable, unforgettable. The decision is yours. But understand this, once you learn to carry power in silence, once you learn to hold mystery like a weapon, once you learn to make your presence scarce and your standards unshakable, you will never need to chase desire again, because desire will chase you.